Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dippin. I'm here at PharmPlus, and this is the first introduction video to the GDPR series from PharmPlus. Basically, GDPR is a new approach to data protection. There is a lot of information already out there, and the MPA and PS&C have already done some excellent support webinars for you, and we strongly suggest that you watch this in conjunction with this video series. The purpose of this video series is not to be the only thing you should be watching, but it is to supplement what they have said. Therefore, you must still watch their webinars to get an idea of what GDPR is about. It is therefore impossible to go over the whole of GDPR in one webinar. Now, what I would like you to do is download the workbook from the web address on the top of the screen. I also want you to watch the PS&C and the MPA webinars. I want you then to work through the workbook that they have created. There are 13 templates that are labelled A to M, which we will be working through in this video series. And as I mentioned a bit earlier, this series is not a substitute for watching the above webinars, which go over some of the more difficult questions regarding GDPR. So what is this workbook that I'm talking about? If you look at the above website, what you'll see is a page similar to this, and it's got 4 different parts to it. There is the short version, which you should be downloading first, just to get an idea of what GDPR is about. There is a workbook, which is really where this webinar series is going to be based on. There is a series of FAQs which you will need to read as well. And furthermore, there is part 1, which is a much more detailed handbook on what GDPR is about, and it is recommended that you read that as well. So, what does this webinar series involve? Well, basically there's 13 different areas, and we'll be going through a specific section each week, and your task will be therefore to complete each section each week in order to ensure that you've met the deadline. Basically, GDPR is designed to provide an improved and more comprehensive framework for protecting the information on living individuals. And here it is. There's 13 different sections, and if you look at the bottom, it forms the word data protected. We'll be going over each of these coloured sections each week, and your job will be to ensure that each of those actions are completed before moving on to the next video. So we'll be going through the green section first, we'll be then going through the golden section there, we'll be going through the purple section after that, and we'll be finishing off on the blue section. We estimate that it will take you about 4 weeks to complete, possibly more, depending on how much you've got to do. So your job now is to download that workbook. Then we're going to go through each of the templates in the workbook, and the next few videos will break down what you'll need to do. We want you to watch each of those videos in turn before moving on to the next video. And my strong suggestion is, do not leave this till the last moment. You have been warned. Your job now is to go on to video 2, which will describe the first set of tasks that you need to complete. As always, here are details. If you need us, give us a shout. This series is exclusively for PharmPlus members, so please do not give this out to anybody else. Take care and see you on video number 2. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is video 2 of the GDPR series by PharmPlus, and today we'll be discussing templates A to C. So, this is the second video, as mentioned. We'll be going over templates A to C. And before you do anything, you must have downloaded the workbook from the web address above before you continue. And this is what we'll be going over today. We'll be talking about how you decide who is responsible, the action plan. We'll be talking about how you think about and record the personal data that you process. And also we'll be talking about how you assure that you have a lawful basis for processing that data. And here it is, mapped out again with the various templates that you'll be using in the workbook. Obviously, template A relates to who is responsible, and so forth. So let's have a look at who is actually responsible for GDPR in your workplace. Here there are two potential actions that you'll need to take under template A. The first thing is you'll need a listing of the names that are relevant for those involved in information governance. The second thing is to appoint something called a data protection officer. However, this is probably more likely to occur in large-scale pharmacy businesses, and as such there is no need at present to appoint anybody in this role, although more information on that is coming out soon. This is template A, and all you'll need to do is go through one by one and decide who is going to be responsible. As mentioned earlier, the data protection officer is not needed by you at this moment in time, although that could change in the near future. Now, once you've done that, you'll need to look at template B, which is the action plan. There are three potential actions here. The first thing is look at template B, and each time you complete an action, you'll need to sign it off. The second thing you'll need to do is continue to pay your annual fee to the ICO, and also you'll need to train your staff in GDPR. And the workbook that we mentioned in video 1 could be excellent use of material there to train your staff up. And here you go, this is the template B. Again, each time you complete a section, you'll need to put in the date that you completed it. After you've done that, you'll just need to get whoever's responsible for information governance to sign it and make sure everything's okay. Now, let's have a look at template C. Template C covers two things. It's about the sorts of data that you process, and also the lawful basis behind the processing as well. And what I've done is I've combined it into one, which is called personal data and lawful basis. It's just to make my life a little bit easier. Now, there are a number of things you'll need to do in this particular template, and the good thing is that most of the work has already been done for you. So the idea is what you'll need to do is look at what sort of information you process and whether or not you've got the legal authority to process that information. So for example, if I'm looking at advanced services, the good thing is that the template that the PSNC and all the other bodies have created has got all the information already pre-populated in there for you for advanced services. There are a few bits in red, for example, that you'll need to amend, but nothing too serious. The lawful basis behind advanced services is already pre-populated here. They've also given a number of other pre-populated templates. These, for example, relate to receiving, dispensing and submission of NHS paper, advanced services like we've already discussed, enhanced and locally commissioned services, additional records that you might need to keep, check RX, payment data, private scripts, other non-NHS care services, and so forth. The important thing here is also to bear in mind that there are other things other than just simply pharmacy related records that you'll need to keep. Things like, say, for example, employment records do contain personal data that you'll need to consider in this particular scenario. So if you do have more unusual data that you keep, you'll need to create something to take that into account, and also the lawful basis behind why you have that data. And that is it for this week. So your tasks, as I mentioned earlier, are to complete templates A, B and C, and that should see you through at least a quarter of what you need to do. So we'll see you in video 3, and if you need us, here are our details. Take care and see you soon. Bye bye. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is video 3 of the GDPR series, and today we'll be discussing templates D through F. So, as mentioned earlier, this is the third of the video series. We'll be going over the templates D to F. Before you even consider watching this video, you must have downloaded the workbook from the address above, And also you must have watched the previous videos before you start this. And this week what we'll be doing is we'll be going over principles 5 to 7, which is basically processing information according to data protection principles, reviewing and checking with your processors, and also obtaining consent if you need to. And here it is mapped out again. Template D obviously relates to processing according to data protection principles, template E and template F. Let's have a look at template D, which is processing according to data protection principles. This is relatively straightforward. The action is here. Basically what you need to do is complete the workbook to assist compliance, and then refer to the template, which is a reminder of other relevant information that you should have in place for information governance purposes already. In other words, what you need to do is need to make sure that you complete all the templates in the workbook, and also make sure that you're up to date with information governance, which you should already be anyway. And here is the relevant section here as well. So basically, the policies for information governance are listed at the end of the workbook. Okay, and you already had most of these anyway. And also the templates that we're discussing through this webinar series also need to be completed in order to ensure that you can sign off template D. Let's have a look now at template E, which is reviewing and checking with your processors. And by processors, what I mean are those people who actually use or store your data. So the actions that you'll need to take is, first of all, you need to identify those people. After that, what you'll need to do is you'll need to talk to those people, and also make sure that existing contractual terms are sufficient to confirm GDPR compliance. And in the template, there are a list of details that should be included for GDPR compliance. We'll go into that in a minute. And also, you may also be approached because you yourself process data as well. And therefore, you need to be in a position to make sure that you can give guarantees to other people as well. The template contains two different things. The first thing it contains is a table that you can use to complete this task. So for example, your PMR supplier would be one of those people that you'd want to contact. And once you've gained reassurances that they are GDPR compliant, you can complete that. And this here, the text, are the sorts of reassurances that you'll need. And there are things that you'll need to ask them and get guarantees for. It might not be the PMR supplier. It could be, for example, that you're using an HR company, in which case they will probably also contain or have personal data. Your accountant might also have personal data relating to individuals. So think widely, not just in pharmacy. That's all about template E. Template F is all about consent. Basically, what you need to do here is you need to list out any personal data that you have got. And also, what you'll then need to do is you need to make sure that it's GDPR compliant and you've got the consent to hold that data. So let's have a look at the template then. This is what it looks like. Ultimately, what you'll need to do is you'll need to complete the table at the bottom. This particular pharmacy, for example, holds data on patients and on customers on a pharmacy loyalty card, and therefore it needs to obtain the consent from each individual to be able to hold that data. There are different types of consent as well, depending upon what you're going to be doing with that data. For example, there's explicit consent, and there's more rules if you are collecting that personal data for marketing purposes as well. So that's it for this very short video for this week. Your tasks are now to complete points 5, 6 and 7, and we'll see you next week for video 3. Again, if you need us, feel free to contact us on the details mentioned on this slide. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dippin. I'm here at Plus. Now this is video 4 of the GDPR series, and we will be concentrating on templates G to J today. So, as mentioned earlier, this is the 4th video. We'll be going over templates G to J. Before you start this, you will need to have downloaded the workbook from the web address above, and you will also need to have watched the previous videos before you start this. And today we'll be going over sections 8 to 10. So that's basically telling people about your processes, something called the privacy notice, how to ensure data security, and also how to consider personal data breaches. Template G relates to the privacy notice, template H relates to the data security, and templates I and J relate to personal data breaches. Let's have a look at privacy notice first. It's pretty simple really. There are 2 versions of the privacy notice provided, and you need to make sure that it is prominent. In other words, you need to make sure that it's available on the premises and also online, and the staff know how to access it. So this is one example that you can use, and also the workbook also provides another one that you can adapt as well. Now, template H is about data security, and here are the actions that you'll need to take. Basically, what you need to do is you need to look over the types of security issues that you're going to face. The template contains 3 different areas: physical, electronic, and human. And basically what you need to do is you need to click on each one of those links and complete the template concerned. That's really about it. And finally, you've got templates I and J. These relate to personal data breaches. Template I is effectively a policy that you'll need to complete. Again, all you need to do is amend the bits in red and add or take out things if you need to. Template J, on the other hand, is basically a form that you'll need to complete if a breach does occur. And at least that way you've got details of what to do and sort of things you'll need to do if a breach does occur. And that's it really. So your tasks for this week is to complete 8, 9 and 10. Next week what we'll be doing is we'll be going over the last part of the series. We'll be talking about 11, 12 and 13. Again, if you need us, give us a shout on the details listed on this slide. We're more than happy to help you. Good luck now. Take care. Hi there, my name is Dipper and welcome to video 5. This is the GDPR video, the last one in the series, and today we'll be discussing templates K to M. So as mentioned a bit earlier, this is the 5th video. We'll be discussing K to M, the templates K to M that is. Before you start this video, before you start watching it, you're going to need to have downloaded the workbook from the web address above, and also you will need to have watched the previous videos before you start this. And today we'll be talking about the blue section there. We'll be talking about 11, 12 and 13. So we're going to be talking about think about the data subject rights. We'll be talking about ensure privacy by design and default, and also we'll be talking about the data protection impact assessment. And here it is mapped out again. Template K relates to data subject rights. Template L corresponds to privacy by design and default, and M relates to data protection impact assessment, or the DPIA. So let's have a quick look at the data subject rights. It's quite simple really. What you'll need to do is you'll need to ensure that you are familiar with all the key rights of patients, and if anybody exercises their rights, you would need to record it down. The workbook does contain quite a lot of detail on here. So basically it goes over what rights patients have and people have to data, and the second table there, it provides you with a log whereby you can keep a track of those people who have exercised those rights. Now again, I'm not going to go into too much detail about this. You can read those pages for yourself, but the important thing is to make sure that you keep a log of anybody that requests that data. So let's have a look now at template L, which is privacy by design and default. What this is basically saying is when you do a particular task, do you consider the data protection principles, or is it just basically something you consider afterwards? So in other words, you need to actually have it ingrained in you from the very beginning. I'll give you a few examples here that they've released. So in the templates, you've got some examples here. Let's take into account, for example, local commissioning. So let's say I'm doing a needle exchange scheme and I'm having to send off information to the commissioner about the people that I've supplied to. Is the data that I send to the commissioner potentially identifiable for the patient? Yes, perhaps, if it is the full name and date of birth. But there is a possibility that I might instead be able to send it in a pseudo-anonymized form. In other words, whereby it has to be melded in with another set of data in order to identify a particular individual. In other words, for example, it could be something along the lines of perhaps the initials of the patient and maybe their date of birth. That would therefore have to be melded with another set of data to confirm exactly who it's applied to. That's just one particular example, but there are other ones out there. So what you would need to do is any services that you provide, you will need to take that into account as one of the very first things that you do. Again, it's also provided a number of other sections for you to fill out too. Let's have a look finally at template M, which is the data protection impact assessment. And the one thing I would like you to look at is at the end of this particular arrow. What it says here is that we are waiting for the ICO guidance, but in our view, most smaller pharmacies will not need to carry out a DPIA for normal dispensing practices. However, what it does say also is that if you're introducing any new technologies, then you will need to potentially consider the impact that that has on data protection. So for example, if you're introducing a new robot onto your pharmacy premises or something similar to that, you'll need to consider data protection as paramount there as well. And that is really about it. That's sections 11 to 13 completed now. As I mentioned a bit earlier on in the previous videos, data protection itself is incredibly important, and if you watch a PSNC video and the MPA videos, which I strongly suggest you do, it will show you just how important it is. So please don't leave this till the last moment to complete. Again, if you do need us, give us a shout. We might be able to help you. Our contact details are here and we're only a phone call or an email away. Good luck and hope you succeed in your data protection. Take care now. Bye bye.